at the India Business Lounge in World Economic Forum at Davos. Today we have esteemed guests from various domains of the society. We have JS Sri Ratnu sir for perspective from the government. We have Ajaita Shah from Frontier Markets, who will be presenting the side from the startups. And then we have Kanta ma'am from UN Women. And representing the investor community is Ms. Shweta Kohli from Sequoia. So, sir, we would like to invite you for the opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Salil. Government of India has taken a route on the technology and digital space that is a sort of a very revolutionary in the sense that if you see the story of UPI, which has actually cut across the barriers. Earlier, the fintech was a word which was so elite, so remote to the common people, common businesses, that they were not having access. So fintech like UPI, which is agnostic of any platform and which has open source, which has given access to the large number of traders, businesses across the country. And today, entire world is looking and partnering with us on that. There are similar such, so I call and we call at Government of India as a democratization of the digital space. And another one revolutionary thing happening in Government of India is open network for digital commerce, which again is going to be a sort of a new path-breaking and very inclusive tool to help save our small traders in the country. The Government of India's thinking and the policy is also reflected this time in Davos, and India has re-narrated the entire narrative. It has questioned the dominant narrative of Davos, where often the big businesses and famous people only used to come. So we have brought, through again an inclusivity launch and sustainability launch, the innovation in these two spaces in the country through digital tools. So this again shows that our commitment and conviction of the government. While saying this, again, I would like to say that when we talk about inclusivity, we have to see inclusivity in a holistic sense, and there are many dimensions. It has a dimension of the poverty, the class dimension. It has got a gender dimension of inclusivity. Inclusivity has got a dimension of region. There is a divide between a rural area and urban area and the remote areas in the country. There is a dimension of the global dimension where certain countries are not having that kind of access. And when India is having global G20 presidency and our slogan is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that entire globe is one family. And at that juncture, we do not only want to make India as inclusive, but India also wants to advocate at across the global and want to make partnership with more, all across the world to see that how we can bridge the gaps between haves and have-nots, which are created due to access to technology. And a long way we have to go. Still we find that, many of the simple things in the villages, which are there for generations, they are not still gendered, those technology. For example, I have worked all along on the coastal areas. I was district collector of Kadalur, Kanyakumari. All along I worked on the coastal areas, and I was also director of fisheries. I was always used to wonder why women do not go for fishing. And the simple answer is that the technology which is being used is, I think, perhaps for 1,000 years, the same boat. We have started using a different material. We have started using fiber. But still it is so heavy to lift that boat. That's why the women are not able to go to fishing. The day you do a little, a parking platform on the fisherman village where, women can take their boat with the wheels and go to the parking shed and they can. So I think those kind of areas, I think still we have to do, a scanning across this thing, and we have to see our technology or our livelihood tools, how accessible they are, whether it's a differently able people, whether the women, whether it is our senior citizen, whether it is certain sections of the society. So I think we have to identify, and the government of India with the Niti Aayog, etc., is constantly doing these studies and research to find out the more areas. I think, let me not take more than my due share for opening remarks. Look forward to hear you all.
Thank you so much.
So,
So much for that opening remarks. Continuing, over to you, Ajayata. That what are the, so some mention about the various platforms at the Inclusivity Lounge and how it is gender focused, and it's from the poverty angle as well. So what is your initiative? What are your organization doing in this regard? And what are your views about the same?
so first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. I was actually waiting for this panel to happen because it's so lovely to be in this house, especially knowing that India is taking a leadership role today when it comes to the fact that we are the presidency of G20. And I think it's a moment to really celebrate, to understand that we are leaders in big ways, because let's remember, we are literally almost the largest population in the world. 1.43 billion people live in our country, and we have 700,000 villages, and we have over 800 million people that live in those villages. And let's be clear, 51% are women that ultimately today deserve opportunities, deserve a voice, deserve the ability to be a part of the digital transformation. What's been interesting for me in reflecting on the work that I've done and also thinking about what the opportunities are. So Sarah, first of all, couldn't agree with you more. And I think that what I'm really grateful for is, you know, I won the Global Entrepreneur Summit in 2017 when Modi ji and Ivanka Trump had come to Telangana for Women First, Prosperity for All. I'm a National Startup Awardee. I'm a Women Transforms India awardee with Niti Aayog, and I'm really grateful because at the end of the day, the work that we do on the ground matters because we are focusing on women. So what do we do at Frontier Markets? And I think it's an interesting nexus because for a very long time, one, I'll first say, let me appreciate the fact that the government has done a phenomenal job in building an infrastructure for women collectives. And the self-help group infrastructure that's been created by the country is phenomenal. The fact that we have bank accounts, the fact that we have Aadhaar IDs, actually has paved a path for big change, which is brilliant. But ultimately, creating capital through bank accounts is not enough if women don't have jobs, if women don't have entrepreneurial opportunities to take that working capital. Secondly, despite the brilliance of digital transformation, internet connectivity, smartphone penetration, let's please understand that women are still not the ones that have access to that digital transformation opportunity. They're not the ones that are, and if they do, because of nonprofit work, because of government intervention, because of CSR, we're getting phones in the hands of women. However, they don't have a business. And if they don't have a business, they're not gonna be able to take working capital. National Rural Livelihood Mission brilliantly has created an opportunity through policy to bring in over $1.4 billion worth of commitments and working capital for women. But if you look at the penetration of taking in that capital, it's not even 10% because women don't have business opportunities. So what have we done at Frontier Markets? We've looked at this with that lens. We started understanding the access gap. It is very difficult for rural people to get access to quality healthcare, good access to financial services, good access to even agri-inputs and tools if they're not connected online, if they do not have the opportunity to get doorstep delivery of services. So what Frontier Markets has done is we've said, let's fix that. Let's, one, invest in women, because rural women, let's be clear, are champions. They are the strongest women I've ever seen, married at the age of 14, with 5 kids by the time they're 35. These are women that are hungry to earn and give back to their communities. So we've invested in those women. We've given them digital training. We've given them access to an app that actually they created themselves. And this app allows them to actually collect data to really be able to verify what households need. And we've been able to partner with over 35 different solutions to bring those services in ag and healthcare and finance and services. Today, 35,000 women entrepreneurs are earning over 5,000 rupees a month, helping over 1 million families get over 50 million solutions till date, creating impact and opportunity. And one thing that I will say is that when we talk about inclusivity, we always talk about deprivation. But actually, what India is showing is that if you invest in rural India, if you invest in Bharat, if you invest in women, it's an impact economy, which actually creates exponential outcomes. So what we are excited to see going forward is through the initiatives of open source platforms, through inclusion, here's an opportunity to scale that at a large level. We're super grateful for government because with our partnerships in Rajasthan and UP, we've been already able to launch She Leads Bharat, which means that we're here to create 1 million of those rural digital entrepreneurs to help 100 million families. No one else in the world can say that. No one else in the world can say that we have 1 million entrepreneur warriors that can unlock billions of opportunities to bring markets in. India is the place where this opportunity will happen. And we believe through Frontier Markets' work and through partnerships with government, through partnerships with investors, through partnerships with NGOs, we can take this to the next level. So we're excited about that, and we really believe that this is the time for India to shine.
Thank you so much for that introduction, like the detailed explanation into what Frontier Market is doing. Carrying forward the discussion, the panel discussion, Kanta ma'am, if we could see from the perspective of UN and how technology plays a role currently, or how do you see technology and innovation playing a role in inclusivity? And what are the current initiatives or some of the initiatives you're undertaking to enable inclusivity at UN?
Okay, let me now introduce myself.
So I would request the panelists if they can introduce themselves, sir. We'll give them the opportunity. Yes.
Sure. Thank you, and my name is Kanta Singh, and I'm the Deputy Rep in UN Women India office. This is my second time in Davos, and I'm really privileged to be here. Last year when I came, I just came on holidays, and I thought that next time I want to speak here. I have been speaking to Deepak to say, let's make this place more safe for women to come, talk, meet, network, and also speak. And I'm so very happy that all that dream has come true here, and I'm talking to so many of you. As Ajita said, we talk to a different set of women. I don't want to say beneficiary, but the participants of a program are people who nobody has thought about, who probably were left out. But because of the several opportunities that Government of India has created through Jan Dhan Yojana, through EUID, through different programs, through Mudra, I think many of them have started dreaming again. Not that they didn't have potential, they always had potential. And UN Women has been targeting those women in aspirational districts. We work in the poorest of the states and poorest of the areas, because that's what we are supposed to be doing. But on the other hand, we also work with women who have started their businesses with 5,000 rupees to 5 lakh rupees. Generally, you know how women start businesses. Either they inherit businesses, or they start with low risk, low appetite, low impact businesses, because they don't have anybody to back them. Firstly, they don't have awareness. Secondly, they don't have funding. But funding is not the only thing women lack. That's just one of the problems. What they don't know are the opportunities. What they don't know is the technological innovations that are happening, because they don't move in those spaces where these things are discussed. How many women are here in Davos today? And this is after 10 years when there were 3 women to begin with. What they also need is mentoring support. What they need is somebody who can guide them on taxation, somebody who can guide them on registration, somebody who can take them through the legal processes. They don't trust everybody, because they're fearful that with the money that they have been able to borrow from somewhere or from some relative, somebody will just take that money away. They are very risk-averse business women. They don't want to lose that money that they start. Probably that's the last hope they have. I also feel that the funding that comes to women entrepreneurs is very low. And you know, Ajita, just 2% of the VC funding is going to women, and here there are a lot of investors, a lot of people who are sitting here, women investing in women. I have been talking about it, that women who have been able to access some wealth probably should start investing in more women, and they will never lose money. They will never lose your money. They will never lose your money. They are the safest people, and world has shown, and poorest women have shown, they are the safest borrowers. The microfinance institutions have a story to tell about that. What we, however, are looking forward to is India's leadership in G20. They have not only brought in women-led development in the center of G20, but also digital and financial inclusion, which we are very hopeful that the legacy will continue in Brazil and South Africa, and the narrative will shift from global north to global south. And that's we are very passionate about. We are supporting Government of India through working groups and engagement groups, putting the gender perspective being at the center of where we should be, and that is where we think we will be able to make a big change. And I'll continue.
Thank you so much for that, ma'am. Shweta, if you could just take the mic and introduce yourself, and then I'll address you with the question.
Thank you so much, Salil. My name is Shweta Rajpal Kohli, and I lead public policy for Sequoia Capital in India and Southeast Asia. Just to give a perspective, Sequoia Capital has been in the region, India, Southeast Asia, for about 17 years now, and making investments across many, many sectors, be it fintech, health tech, ed tech, and we've been very excited with the kind of innovation we're seeing overall in the startup ecosystem.
Thank you for that, Shweta. So one interesting thing ma'am mentioned, Kanta ma'am mentioned, that less than 2% of the funding today are going into from VCs are going into the women and women-led businesses. So while evaluating businesses as an investment opportunity, how much do you look at inclusivity, diversity, and what is the outlook from the VC perspective?
Sure. I think, first I must say that I think it's very heartening to see that the entire VC ecosystem is committed to making a change to the number that you're talking about. The number that we understand is what we are made to understand is the correct number, is actually that about 12% of venture-backed startups in India have at least one female founder, and it's about 20% in ASEAN. This is as per data which we've sourced from Traction as well as Crunchbase. So, but even going by that data, it's obviously a very dismal number. It's not a number we can be proud of. It's not a number we can sit and relax and say it's okay or it's going to improve on its own. It's something that we as an industry need to come together and commit to improving. And while the data doesn't paint a pretty picture, what certainly is heartening is that efforts are taking place, and progress may be slow, but it's happening. And I'm happy to cite some of the instances, and especially some of the steps that we, as one of the largest venture capital firms in the startup ecosystem, have taken towards this. And I'd like to specifically highlight a program called Spark, which is a fellowship that Sequoia initiated, primarily with the aim of improving the diversity ratio in the VC ecosystem. Now, this is a fellowship that we actually started in 2021, and the aim was that this is going to be an equity-free grant given to a cohort of women founders, $100,000 that we give as equity-free grant. And what's more important than just signing that check is what goes with it, and it's a lot of mentorship support. It's a lot of traditional and tribal knowledge that Sequoia brings with it when it comes to building enduring companies. And I'm actually very, very happy to share some data that we have from our first cohort. The first cohort had 15 founders, startups from various countries in and around the region. And the data that I want to share is that as of December 22, 10 out of 15 startups in that cohort have actually raised their seed and Series A rounds from VC firms and angels across the region. One has, in fact, even been acquired, and this totals, capital of $51 million post the Spark Fellowship. And it clearly demonstrates that these are companies that are building disruptive, scalable tech businesses, but more than that, it demonstrates that when there is intent to make that change, when you put action behind it, when you put full commitment behind it, you see that change happen. Is it enough? Do we need to do more? 100%. And just to extend that, I'd also like to say that now we go ahead with our second cohort, which will have 12 founders. So we're very committed that this has to be a very high-quality program consisting of women founders who will be building these enduring, sustainable businesses and will hopefully continue to raise more capital. But also, just to qualify here, that it's not only Sequoia Capital that's making some of these changes. We understand that many are now cognizant that they have to come together as an ecosystem and improve that number.
Thank you for those remarks, Shweta. I want to say one thing, that when we talk about inclusivity, it's not like, yes, gender-based inclusivity plays a very important aspect, but inclusivity has other angles to it as well. So, sir, bringing the topic back to you, would you like to shed more light on what India is doing over here in the Inclusivity Lounge, which you mentioned in your opening remarks, and how it's not just about women and how India is approaching, as the government of India is approaching, inclusivity aspect from all angles?
Well, this is a small experiment started with the idea that, as I told you, that why not the rich ideas and rich skills and rich crafts also find place in Davos. And that is how with this thought, this whole ideation and curation of this space has come up. And when we were defining the inclusivity, we have taken various dimensions of that. Of course, gender was one of them, and we have shown the various data related to women's self-help group, about the women's literacy, the gross enrollment ratio, how that is increasing, and also work participation of women. We also have taken the farmers' angle and how that our agrarian economy can also be brought to the mainstream of the economy, and those good practices there, whether it's our year of millets, and many of regions they are, but you find the foods with the richest nutrition and the farmers are the poorest there, which is irony. Similarly, in the inclusion, we have brought the differently able dimension. We have also brought the dimension of our great Indian cultural heritage in terms of its crafts, its handicrafts, its handlooms, its GI products. Then we have launched a scheme called One District, One Product, so that the districts can become the export hubs. And we've identified one potential product from each of the districts. So some of those best products, we have tried to bring them here and also connect with people to those products. So in our inclusivity thing, we have brought the regional angle, we have brought the crafts angle, cultural dimension, we have brought the health dimension, we have brought the gender dimension, we have brought the differently able dimension in that. So I request all of you to visit our two other spaces. One is Promenade 63, where we have inclusivity launch, and another is Promenade 68 sustainability launch. The inclusivity launch, there is no intentional exclusion of that launch. It was the space constraint because in Davos there are all cafes and shops that we hire, and we could not get a contiguous space. So we had to put them differently. But surely that is not meant to make non-exclusive inclusion of the inclusivity. So surely we plan to have in future India Pavilion. That is our vision, that where we can have different launches. So anyway, so I hope that answers that our inclusivity definition, and we like to learn more from you. And we do not claim that we at government know everything. We are very open to listen to you, learn from you, open to your criticism if there is any, and of course if there is a good feedback also you are free to give. So do visit the launches.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for those input. So Ajayita, coming back to you, so sir mentioned about how we have tried to showcase that only the rich should not be coming, or the elite, if I so say, should be coming to Davos, and they should come, but they should not only come, sir. That's the larger message.
They could not come, so we have brought them
Virtually, yes. So what in your views, how do you see in coming years in Davos we can increase more inclusivity, and somewhere with the help of technology and innovators, what can we do more to bring those sections of the society at the same level and have the same representation at Davos? Something Frontier Markets are doing in this aspect, or something you can want to partner with us, and next time in Inclusivity Lounge you could have some of your social entrepreneurs that you have helped being displayed their products over there.
So I'll tell you that, so pre-COVID, we always had to bring investors and people to the field to meet our Sahelis, because it's important to meet these Sahelis, because once you meet the women entrepreneurs, everything changes. In fact, my favorite fun fact was the MD of Mitsubishi, right, had come to meet our Sahelis, and he asked, and these Sahelis were standing with him, and eventually decided to sit down, he was still standing, And they said, listen, आपको खड़े होना है, आप खड़े हो जाओ, मैं थक गई हूँ, मैं बैठने वाली हूँ, right? And it was amazing because ultimately there was a different parity of understanding that they are the entrepreneurs. And you know, this MD said to me, I've been to IFCO, I've seen male farmers, and whenever I go there, they just kind of nod and they go, huh, but your women are firecrackers. And I said, yeah, that's why you have to meet them. When COVID happened, no one could meet them, right? We were in a lockdown. There was a reality. And most people from outside of India could definitely not come into India, let alone rural villages, to meet them. So we created Zoom conversations with our Sahelis and any investor that wanted to do due diligence. And our Sahelis were happy to take their smartphones and do WhatsApp calls. They were happy to create videos, and they were happy to be on Zoom conversations. So the fact is that digitization of women is game-changing because they know how their voice should be heard. That's one really important thing. Secondly, Frontier Markets has been able to use our app to get contextual, real-time data on women. Who are you? Who is a Mahila Kisan? Who is the woman that has created a product that doesn't have access to market, and what is her challenge? Real-time data collection gives us the responsibility to then aggregate that data and turn it into insights so that the entire universe can hear about it. When a PNG says they want to figure out a way to get diapers into rural markets, it's women that say, let me tell you who the new mothers are, right? And this is what is beautiful about what data and digitization can be. Now, to your point about getting our women to Davos, of course. I have a couple of ideas. One, of course, is that we have a panel next time with just rural women on it, and we talk to them about this, and of course, we film it on YouTube. But the second is, if they cannot reach Davos because there's, frankly, hopefully by next year, there's 100,000 of them. And so ideally, what we're doing is we're doing virtual sessions where they're calling in, and everyone that's sitting in the audience today is getting a chance to ask questions from them and learn from them, most importantly, because they really are the voice and they are the innovation. And there's many ways that we can ensure that the real voice of Bharat comes out in the right way.
Thank you for that, Ajada. Really interesting idea. You've just given us an idea of what we can do as well at the India Lounge next year, something we can contemplate. Yeah, but we will think of, so we can probably expand the scope. We can have our products and we could have virtual sessions with them answering real life questions. We just have to take care of the time difference because I believe it's a little late in India right now as well, but yes. So coming to you, ma'am, so one very interesting point we have also discussed today is the initiatives that UN are taking. But in some of the current initiatives, it has been very traditionally being supportive, the inclusivity. So how do you see bringing the technology aspect in? Like how just Ajayita mentioned that digitization of women is really helping improve them. So now, again, I'm trying to again and again go from women to all aspects of the society. So other than women, if some other initiatives on how other areas of other aspects or elements of inclusivity we can focus on, you can talk about some of the initiatives of UN, that would be great.
Absolutely. In fact, number of things that we have been doing as UN Women. One is working with disabled women, definitely. So women are not the same category. Women who are sitting there are different from women who we work with, and women who we work with are different from women who we haven't even reached there. So disabled women, transgender people, LGBTQI people, minority women. There are different categories of women, and we cannot put them in just one category. That's the one kind of inclusive angle that we'll have to bring to everything that we say. I'm not enough. I mean, my voice is not enough to represent everybody's voice. So we also want to bring in those voices which have never been heard. I was talking to a young woman here. She's just 10, and it's the first time probably I've seen a young 10-year-old who's going to present her book tomorrow. I'm saying, how many people have invested in the voices of 13-year-olds to understand what a girl's dreams are? Everybody wants to know a boy's dreams. What do you want to become when you grow up? I want to start something like, and technology is the biggest tool in that, to understand every girl's dream. Talk to a 13-year-old and ask that girl, what is it that you aspire to be? What is it that you want to be? That's my dream technology for the biggest change that can happen when you start talking to young women and what they want to be. It is just that the loss that we don't even realize what a big loss it is not to include women. The loss is not only to women themselves, but to the society, but to the countries, because it's a huge potential. We are working with, you're driving on one wheel, right?
I can answer your question, though, because I get your point. I hear you. It's not just women. We understand that. So let me give you a different example, maybe, of how technology brings a family together, right? So we use women as a conduit because we need to understand families, right? The thing that we have to understand, and criticism but respect, is that the government has amazing data, but it's old data, right? So what happens is, if you're going in to understand deep nuances of a family, we're using women to collect the surveys, but we're not asking just women questions. We're asking their husbands questions. We're asking their sons questions. We're asking their entire family. We're asking the mother-in-law, the father-in-law. Because let's be clear, India is a joint family reality, right? We're a holistic unit. And so therefore, when we're designing solutions, a lot of people always think that I'm only building a platform for women to sell to women, but it's not true. It's women are influencers, but ultimately the decisions that are happening is a holistic family thing. So actually on our app, we have families using the app. We have sons buying smartphones. We have husbands buying tractors. We have an entire holistic pattern for this, because that's where inclusivity comes in. But the only point that we're trying to emphasize is that women are a great vehicle to create partnerships and inclusivity. But of course, it's not just about women. So, and then I would also add the element of tribal, caste, etc. So when you start looking at this with a market lens and not necessarily just a beneficiary lens, and I'm sure you're going to talk a bit about this, is that you start seeing people as dignified customers. And all of a sudden, you understand that a son is a customer, a father is a customer, a daughter is a customer, everyone's a customer. They need things, and you can create market opportunities in that way. And that's what makes India so exciting, because we are literally one of the largest markets in the world.
You
Right,
actually,
in fact,
yeah.
I wanted to, Salil, move the discussion also towards what I believe is mindset change and allies who need to come together to ensure that we're seeing that change and progress happen. And I want to quote a few anecdotes here, actually. And especially to your point again, saying that it's not just the women, it's not just, how do you have all stakeholders come together? And I want to actually give an example of one of our founders who is currently in Davos, Nirmit, who is the founder of Apna, right?
Yeah,
So, I was on a call with Nirmit just a few days ago, and we were on a Zoom call, and just a few seconds later, Nirmit's like, I'll just be back in a moment. And he had his 1-month-old baby on his shoulder saying, this is burp time, give me a moment, I need to just ensure, that that the baby is comfortable. And throughout the call, Nirmit's baby, 1-month-old baby, was on his shoulder. And I found that visual image just so empowering. And I'll tell you why. And why that example is so powerful. Because I think more than women, I think men and the mindset change and the signal that sends that tomorrow, if that's a female founder with exactly the same image, she is not being judged. She is not being, in any way being seen as less of an equal or less of a founder. And that's why it's even more important for men to subtly send those signals. I don't think Nirmit even knew what he was doing when he did that. But to me, that was a very powerful signal. And that, we need more examples of whether it's male founders or it's just men as executives in our, I often say this to some of my, male colleagues, that when they need to go and pick up their child from the bus stop, or when they say that they need to attend to their kids, they're actually sending a signal. Because I think as women, whether it's women founders or whether it is women in leadership positions or women at the workplace, we're constantly juggling with when do you bring your gender in and when do you not? And in trying to not bring gender in, we sometimes overcompensate, and that doesn't work. Having said that, that's the other side of the other example that I want to give, is that what's absolutely appalling, and I would say unacceptable, is when women falsely use the gender card. And I think the responsibility rests as much on women and on women to call that out when they see that happen. Because we've seen instances, for instance, when when there is wrongdoing and women instead just choose to hide behind gender or falsely use the gender card. And that to me sets back the entire effort around women empowerment, takes us back many, many steps backwards. Because, there's an entire ecosystem that's rallying to see success around women. And we all want to celebrate it. And we all want women to be successful. But we cannot allow that to happen.
Can I challenge you for 1 second, though?
Yes.
Because I was on a Niti Aayog. WEP for me is one of the coolest things that we've done, right, in a long time. And there was a gender accelerator that was created in Rajasthan, in Jaipur,
Right.
where there was 45 women entrepreneurs who ultimately were all different ages. And the typical VC standard is 97% startups will fail, 3% will succeed, so our accelerator is going to be successful. But women have a very different responsibility of failure.
Yes.
The unintended consequences of sacrificing work-life home balance,
Absolutely.
having to actually work, and justifying why you are going to be a true entrepreneur and work 24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week, while being a mother, while being a good wife, while also taking care of your family. How do we justify those norms if we're not really putting in that gender lens? For me, is something that's really important.
So
take into
to
consideration.
clarify, when I said the gender lens is important. It's okay to say it didn't work out because, I mean, it's fact, the gender. But what I'm alluding to here is when there are women who falsely allege, charges on men just because they're hiding their wrongdoing, that's not acceptable.
Yes, Shweta, we'll bring.
Oh, I think this
There's
is...
something wrong with this mic. Can I have that one? Yes. We'll bring the discussion back to technology, innovation, and inclusivity. So yeah, with that, I would now like to open the forum. If audience has any questions, we'll take few questions. Yeah. So there, ma'am. Yes.
Claude Begley. I'm not a feminist, but I'm pragmatic. We established a joint venture startup in Pune. And one of the person I hired was one of the top 10 PhD students recognized by the Vice President of India. And it created a real tsunami in the organization. Because men, 50, high class, would have difficulty to believe that a young woman, a bit darker and lower class, could be better than them. I had to let about a third of the total staff go. I had the choice of letting her go or keeping her. And I decided to keep her, but it needs some kind of courage. And there was more and more riots. So now I have put the head of R&D, the head of sales, and the head of human resources. There are 3 very strong young ladies. Also with babies, also all what you described. I made sure that with the husband and the family, there would be no problem. And they are hiring more and more ladies. So we are trying to find a balance. We are now at about 50% women in the organization. Without being, I'm a man, so I should not speak against the men. But I should say that the women in our organization are very target-oriented. They stick to what they say, they deliver, and much less politics than the others. So I think we should try to reach a situation where 2 things. A, maybe if the government could organize kind of a campaign for that inclusiveness, because it's not enough to recruit a person. There should be a whole environment around it so that it's acceptable. And B, they should not play over feminism, what you said. And we should really try to establish a situation where the brain, the seriousness, the competence, the loyalty matters, but not the gender.
Yeah, and I would like to respond.
Yes,
to that.
please, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's working, ma'am.
It's working? also want, I had a little problem with what we were talking here earlier. Why do women have to bear the burden of keeping the family safe and keeping the family there? Everybody has a responsibility, including the men. Judiciary is out to say, we are the custodian of the family system. I'm saying you're custodian of the law. Forget about family system. Families will take care of themselves. You protect the law. Here, when we are talking about women entrepreneurs, we have to think of them as entrepreneurs. We don't have to put women there. And women are not trying to encourage, trust me, but can we leave the families there? If the men can take care of them, why don't we put the responsibility where it lies? Every time women, low-paid jobs, low-paid businesses, low-paid, any cadres have to be women. When we are sitting in Davos, we can't think the same way that we've been thinking since 50 years. We need to think of the future where young girls are looking at us to set high standards for them so that they can flourish.
So, ma'am, very, very good point highlighted by you. At the same time, thank you for your remarks, sir. Just wanted to share a few stats around this. So today we have 85,000 startups in India, and 49% of them have at least one women founder registered with the government. Also, talking a little bit about Invest India team, since everyone, so Invest India team in the leadership position, our Chief Operating Officer, our Chief Communication Officer, Head of Startup India, and the one leading the delegation here is a woman. And but at the same time, I think this is their forum where ma'am rightly said that whatever we have been thinking for 50 years, this has to change. And the picture which Shweta shared about Nirmit, I'm going to talk to him about this, like if he could, share a blog or a write-up about that, because that is very important today. So with that, if we have any more questions, a question? Yes, Akshat.
Thank you. One, thank you for a lovely discussion. I'd like to start by saying, yes, I'm definitely a feminist. So we spoke about certain aspects about how we want more women to join the workforce, right? And especially when it comes to startups. But one aspect they genuinely face is that there is a positive bias when you're interviewing male founders. So most of your questions are about success. Whereas with female founders, we completely switch it, and I know this myself, having worked at a VC in India. So how would you say how do you propose that going forward technology will change this? Would it be more similar to what the New York Opera did, where the auditions were now blind auditions? And how do you seek to nudge?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's such a great question. That's such a great question, because obviously you can imagine how many VCs and investors I've dealt with over the last 10 years and setting up my company. And to be clear, you're right, technology allows data to come out and speak for itself. I believe that it's all ultimately to equalize the platform. It's about statistics and it's about numbers. To put this in perspective, and I'm gonna be a little controversial for a minute, I have male competitors, counterparts, who have taken a route where they sell a vision and they raise like hundreds of millions of dollars on a vision and a potential and a crazy valuation, and then they operate at loss. Like we're talking like 10x losses every single year, okay? I raised $7 million and I've built a company that is over $150 million that's been profitable for 6 years straight and actually has created impact. And today, I am not seen, because I'm not on that table, because when people see me, they hear an American accent and they hear young age and they wonder whether I'm married or not, right? And it's ridiculous, because if you just put the numbers there, I'm the best investment on earth, right? So I think what technology will do is it will allow us to report more transparently. It will allow us to also build a better system to be able to grow and scale. But the other thing that I'll say is that in terms of future scale, in terms of where we can even out that playing field, is if you start looking at other statistics beyond revenue and profitability, if you start looking at what we were just talking about, right? If we start reporting on ESG, for example, through a technology platform, and you're looking at what is your governance structure in terms of gender equality? What is your governance structure in terms of environmental impact? What is your government structure? And we start reporting that, and we actually do that, and I think Invest India can help with this. like where all of us as startups, you said 85,000, right? If all 85,000 startups actually had a templatized ability to report on their numbers, all of a sudden you can create a ranking system, blindly, anonymous reporting, that will enable you to actually do some QR rating. And I guarantee you that there are going to be women businesses that are outshining and outranking literally most of the other companies.
Absolutely. I just want
Yes.
to add one point here.
Please,
that
ma'am.
Technology in the hand of right person can do magic. And technology which is biased like we all are can continue to play the same role, right? It'll be biased. Look at, and I wrote to Sundar Pichai one time, the assistant, the AI used for, assistant booking the salon. Why a woman? Why don't a man? He can do the same thing. It's technology after all, right? So technology has to be in the right hands.
So, Shweta, if we could have your final comments on very interesting point highlighted that
Komal.
Yeah, I'm a tech entrepreneur, and I'm sorry to say that, despite all the efforts, I see very few of us in the room even now. And I think the effort really, we all know technology, digital transformation is the future. We all know these are going to be the highest paid jobs in the world. We need to include more women in technology. There's going to be a lot of jobs for AI. What at the government level or at the NGO level or at the capital level, even like Mexico or India, what are we doing to increase the numbers of women in technology?
Right.
Because that's really something which is not picking up at the pace as expected.
Yeah, so I don't know if you heard my initial comments where I talked about some of the initiatives.
This one is working.
I don't know if you heard my initial comments about the initiatives being taken across the board by the VC ecosystem, specifically talking about what we're doing. So we encourage you to apply for our next Spark cohort, which will come, and I assure you it's a program we take very seriously. As I said, there is no cap on that number. We look for talented women entrepreneurs out to build enduring companies. We provide the actual support to ensure that not only are they successful in terms of the mentorship, and when we talk about mentorship, this is not just a phrase which is fancy to use, and we're actually partnering them up with seasoned, well-established, successful mentors from our portfolio who guide them through and ensure. So we want to ensure that success, and I think that's the effort that the ecosystem can put in. But beyond the point, all we can do is try to improve that pipeline. But we also want that everyone has to come together to ensure there is a pipeline, right? And that, I think, is a larger problem we need to address, of mindset shift, of what are the causes why we see women drop off the workforce, be it as an entrepreneur or be it as an executive at the workplace. These are all challenges that need a much larger, I would say, agenda by society to make that difference. But I think in the VC ecosystem, I can assure you, I'm part of a lot of these conversations. It's an active conversation. Everyone's very cognizant of the fact that change needs to happen, and everyone's doing their own bit. Progress in statistics doesn't show up overnight. It always takes time. But is there progress in effort? I think that is happening, and we must acknowledge it. Because unless we acknowledge that, we won't be encouraged to keep doing more of the same. We need the pipeline for that, So, yeah, please.
yes, yes. So with that, if sir, we can have the closing remarks from you for the session. Yes.
I think it has been a very engaging and discussion which at times has gone beyond your boundaries of technologies, because the area as such is that it is multidisciplinary, multidimensional. So there are some other angles. So very interesting insights and experiences shared by our eminent panelists. Really thankful to you for those insights. And we assure you at Government of India that our department, DPIIT, which is the key department for startup ecosystem in India and is led by a very dynamic lady. And I'm sure that surely the women participation also will be growing. And our composition of the team who's leading in Davos is also very, very gendered, and our men are in minority, and most of this great work is being done by them. So it is reaffirmation of our conviction that, gender is just a matter of, women can deliver, and certain jobs they deliver better than men, and each one has their own aptitude and interest. So beyond gender, the technology, just to sum up, coming back to the technology, I think we understood many dimensions of inclusivity today, And when we talk about encouraging innovation and technology, surely the insights which have been taken today will go a long way with us. Thank you very much.
Can I just say one thing? Because I know you wanted to also, there's always a moment to praise as well, right? So I'm going to do that moment of praise. Because She Leads Bharat could not happen if it wasn't for government. And I think the work that we're trying to do in terms of tech integration, data integration, open source, and really making that happen. I mean, we're so excited to kind of work with the government to create an open source platform where literally 100 million rural women's voices will come in, but it's in partnership with government. And so it really is about the anchoring that you all are doing to give people like us an opportunity to kind of take our initiatives forward. So I just want to thank you for that. Yeah?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.